There we go.
There we are. So just real quick, we have Mr. Self, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Franklin, have Ms. Poole by phone who cannot do roll call votes, have Mr. Russell, have Mr. Dykeman. Miss anybody at all? Looks like that's it. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please stand for an opening prayer, pledge of allegiance. Mr. Cameron, if you would, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and thank you for the sunshine. Lord, just thank you for this community and all that you've done for us. And Lord, I just pray, God, again, for wisdom and guidance in all that we do and leading our community in the direction that we need to go. Be with our national leaders, our state, our regional, and also us as local leaders, that you just guide and direct us and give us wisdom. Guide and direct us tonight in all we do and say. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
and to the
republic
republic
For which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
liberty,
indivisible,
justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you. Josh, thanks for putting that American flag up there this time so we had one.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right. Josh, if you would please unmute the phone lines. This time I'd like to open citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please state your name and address, and then we'll give you 5 minutes. Are there any citizens who would wish to speak to anything not on the agenda? Okay, hearing from none. Josh, if you would mute the lines again, I'm closing citizen participation. Need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion. Motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second, Jim Dykeman.
Second from Mr. Dykeman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. On to boards, commission, committee schedule. Note, next city council meeting will be May 5th, 2020. I'm assuming we will probably have that here on Zoom, hoping that we can get back to some normal council meetings in the very near future. I also want to note that the planning and zoning meeting will be May 11th, 2020. Something really big for us is our government has continued to run. We've made use of technology with the help of all of our amazing staff. So our government has not stopped. We're still having our planning and zoning meeting. So there will be one posted for Zoom on May 11th, 2020. Moving on to old business and tabled items. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 20-15.
Motion.
Had a motion from Mr. Wilson, a second from Mr. Franklin. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 6-0. Ms. Laura?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the annexation of approximately 2.9 acres of land located at the 7500 block of West Farm Road 174 and adjacent right-of-way.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 20-15.
Motion, Russell.
Second, Franklin.
Motion for Mr. Russell, second for Mr. Franklin. We have Ms. Haynes here, available to answer any questions, comments, or concerns from the council based on the previous rundown she gave you all. Anything from the council you'd like to get answers to, or questions or comments before we move on to a roll call vote? Okay, seeing nothing, Ms. Laura, if you do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dykeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Self,
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Russell.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Moving on, need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 20-16.
Motion, Wilson.
Second, Franklin.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Laura?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the final plat of the Monte Cristo Phase 8 subdivision.
Thank you again. We have Ms. Haynes like we will all night for all of these, pretty much, other than Ms. Parks for one. For any questions, comments, concerns for the council before we move on to a roll call vote? Seeing nothing, Ms. Laura, if you do roll call vote.
Councilmember Self,
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin,
Aye.
Councilmember Russell,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 20-17.
Motion,
Dykeman.
Russell.
I have a motion for Mr. Russell,
Second, Dykeman.
second for Mr. Dykeman. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries 6-0, Ms. Laura.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the budget for fiscal year 2020.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 20-17.
Motion, Wilson.
Second, Dykeman.
Motion and a second now open for council discussion, questions, comments, or concerns. We have Ms. Parks here to answer anything that we might have questions about. Okay, I don't have a question, but I do want to just again commend Mr. Cameron, Ms. Parks, and all of the city staff for pulling together around $720,000 to make sure that we are financially stable through this crisis. I think we've done a very good job at being cool-handed and focusing on the things that we need to focus on, like making sure that we are fiscally stable rather than having conferences every day. So I want to commend the staff for doing those things and making sure that we are ready to weather this storm. And I think it gives all of our employees a sense of security, knowing that you guys are making the right moves right now to make sure we don't have to do anything later on down the road.
Mr.
Moving
Mayor,
on to roll. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify one thing about the budget that may be not captured tonight. There are still a few capital expenditures that are IT related that will help our functionality that were budgeted items. There's some that are going to run a little bit more, but because they help us from an operational perspective, from an online presence and the ability to function, there will be some expenditures that'll still come back to council for approval because they're over 25,000. But I just want you to be aware, or anyone that will be like, "Well, I thought you weren't going to spend." We're still going to do anything that will improve our ability to provide service online. And so the phone system that we have, believe it or not, people think the phone system doesn't apply, but our service goes through that phone system. And so basically improving that and our switches is something that I've given the authorization to proceed with. So you will see that for approval on the agenda. I just want everybody to understand. We'll explain it at that time, but that's part of our overall amendment. It was budgeted, and we will not exceed it. But I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate the staff's work to cut deep into this budget for 2020.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, if you would, Laura, please roll call vote.
Councilmember Dykeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Russell,
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Moving on to new business, first reads of ordinances. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 20-18.
Motion.
Motion, Russell.
Have a
Second,
motion.
Franklin.
Have a motion and a second. Josh, could you please unmute Ms. Poole, please? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries 6-0. We have Ms. Haynes to give us a brief overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The rezoning request for 830 West O'Neill's from agricultural to medium density single-family residential. It's approximately 6.4 acres of land. It currently contains a single-family residential structure and several residential accessory structures. The TRT and CDD staff have reviewed the rezoning request. We have reviewed it for consistency with the city's comprehensive plan and land use plan goals, objectives, and policies. We've also reviewed it in compliance with compatible uses and municipal water and sewer service. This particular property is surrounded by a medium density, single family residential in all directions. There is one 5-acre parcel adjacent to the southwest that is currently zoned Greene County Agricultural. This site is currently served by City of Republic Water. Sewer is currently provided by a private septic system. The site currently has a 10-inch water main running along the north property line, running parallel to West O'Neill. A 6-inch water main located at the western property line at the termination of West Audrey, and also a 6-inch water main located at the east property line at the termination of South Lipscomb Drive. City sewer mains are located at each of those termination points. The flow goes directly to lift station number 2 before flowing to the wastewater treatment facility. Both the water and sewer mains in place do have the capacity to serve the potential development. Excuse me, staff is also reviewed in compliance with our current floodplain maps and sinkholes. There are no identified sinkholes on this particular piece of property, and it does not contain any floodplain area. Staff does consider the proposed zoning amendment to be generally consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, consistent with the trend of development in the vicinity of the site, compatible with surrounding land uses, and able to be served by municipal facilities. We are recommending the approval of this.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hey, Ms. Haynes, I saw that it was unanimously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do you know, were there any residents that spoke either in opposition or in favor of this at that meeting?
We didn't have anyone actually at the meeting, but we did have one person that was wanted a message relayed, and that was from citizen Sonia Flower. So I did relay that message. Her concern was the number of homes in this particular area, and she did suggest that the land would be better used as a community garden or a walking trail.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the council? Okay, seeing none, if you have any questions between now and the next meeting, please get with Ms. Haynes. And don't go anywhere, Ms. Haynes. I will move on to, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 20-19.
Motion, Wilson.
Second, Russell.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Ms. Haynes, I'm sorry, Ms. Laura.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 24.48 acres located at the 6300 block of South Farm Road 89 from agricultural AG to high-density single-family residential R1H.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. As indicated, this rezoning application is for approximately 24.5 acres. The property is currently vacant. It does not contain any agricultural or residential structures. And right now it's currently being utilized for agricultural purposes only. Staff and the TRT have reviewed the rezoning request in compliance with the city's comprehensive plan, goals and objectives and policies of the land use plan, and also identified the surrounding land uses. This particular piece of property is surrounded by the lakes of Schuler Ridge, PDD to the east, Valley Trail Plan Development to the west, and Greene County Agricultural Zone properties to both the north and the south. The land uses permitted in the high-density single-family residential zone do include single-family dwellings, residential accessory structures, golf courses, country clubs, and schools. We have reviewed it for capacity with the city's water and sewer service. The site is not currently connected to municipal utilities, but it does have proximity to both. The site currently has an 8-inch water main adjacent to the east property line on East New Madrid Drive, which is in the Lakes of Schuler Ridge. An extension of the 10-inch water main located at the Valley Trail subdivision to the west of South Farmer Line
Q4 2019.
will be required to make a loop connection through the subdivision. There's also an 18-inch sewer main located at the east property line on New Madrid that'll connect to this particular piece of property should it develop into a residential subdivision. Both locations for sewer are flowing to the Schuler Creek lift station before traveling through a force main to the wastewater treatment facility. The water and sewer mains in place do have the capacity to serve a potential development at this location. We've reviewed it for compliance with our floodplain map and sinkholes. It does not contain any sinkholes, and it does not contain any floodplain area. We've also reviewed it in compliance with our transportation plan. The applicant has turned in a traffic impact study, which has been reviewed by our engineering department and public works. The report does indicate no major improvements are needed to the city's current transportation system to accommodate the increase in traffic generated by a potential development at this location. Staff does consider the proposed zoning amendment or rezone to be generally consistent with the goals and objectives of the comp plan, consistent with the trend of development in the vicinity of the site, generally compatible with surrounding land uses, and able to be served by municipal utilities. Based upon this analysis, staff does recommend the approval of this application.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council?
I have a question if it's appropriate.
Well, we'll find out when you ask it.
That's why I said what I said. Has McElhaney sold that property to a developer?
I believe they have a contract on it. I don't know that the particular sale of the property has happened yet. I do believe it's pending probably approval of the rezone.
Yeah, I heard that he had sold it, so that was why I asked.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the council?
Sorry for that outburst. Zoom meetings are what can happen. So anyway, we had two computers going and to do an update and decided to speak up. So sorry about that.
Josh, could you unmute Ms. Poole? She keeps getting muted somehow. Ms. Poole, did you have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns before the next meeting, please get with Ms. Haynes. We do not have any resolutions to take up, so on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm gonna go fairly quick. Appreciate Debbie sent out a financial report today. I just kind of want to hit some of the highlights of that report that she sent out via email. If you have any questions, you can contact Debbie regarding that information. But as you'll see, and we anticipated, we've been kind of staying on trend. For the beginning of the year, our sales tax numbers are up about 9.6% through the first quarter, which Debbie's been reporting routinely. The good news is that the unfortunate part is while sales tax receipts lag about 60 to 90 days behind, our financials as for our expenses are up. So the month-end financials for March show that we're at 23%, or we should be around 25%. So, which obviously shows that the costs or the cutting that we did or the expenses that we kind of slowed down on, you can already see those being reflected in our March expenditure. So while it may take us several months to see what the actual impact is going to do to our sales tax numbers, I do appreciate the work that is, again, in your consideration for the budget amendment that was approved tonight and the resolution at the last meeting. I really think it was a very aggressive proposal. I've heard and seen some that have suggested possibly 20%. That may be more reasonable. We wanted to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So, and we'll monitor our expenditures. We'll continue to look at how things are going and how things are trending. Debbie is putting together some trend analysis for us that actually shows how we're actually comparing to some of those budget projections or those cuts. So each month we'll begin to provide you information as to this is what, the worst case scenario that we budgeted for or adjusted for. And we'll actually be trending for you what those numbers actually look like. Because the budget for 2020, pretty much with what's happened, you can pretty much kick that to the curb for what the projections would be. So now we're going to adjust to what we like. So is it 40%? Is it 30? If it comes in at 15, you will see the trend analysis versus what we actually modified to see how it's actually working. And then we'll begin to adjust expenditures or plans moving forward based upon that. And so also we got some good news. We got a refund or some money back on the wastewater plant 1999A bonds of about $54,000. That's another little shot in the arm for the wastewater budget. As you recall, we paid off the wastewater plant a little bit early. We got some additional funding back from that. I actually said 54,000. It's around 53,000. But other than that, we're not going to see much interest revenue this year. Obviously, the paper has gone down to zero. I think Debbie was able to work with the bank and got, I think it was 0.25%. So better than zero, but we got some money for our money. But again, I want to thank you for your consideration on the budget. It's not a fun exercise to perform. It's a necessary function that we have to do. I want to thank the staff because we started, I believe, the second week of March on slowing down our expenditures in our process. And so it's not easy, and I appreciate their understanding of what's going on. I want to thank the staff. Mary, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit on the planning and zoning side. I think it speaks a lot to Karen, to Josh, and anyone that participated to make sure that our planning and zoning did not miss its scheduled meeting. When this first started, and Karen would attest to this, if she wasn't unmuted, she would attest to this, that I was not planning on moving forward. I was like, this is going to delay. We're not going to have council meetings. We're going to try to do one a month. And we actually stayed to our actual meeting agenda. So as you recall, this is our third meeting. We've not missed our regular meetings, and the staff did not disappoint in coming through on the planning and zoning meetings and the planning and zoning commission. So just a huge shout out to the work that's going on by the city staff to make sure these meetings go on and that business is still being conducted. I mean, we did a rezone, an annexation, and development is moving forward. We're still working on development every single day. And so for all the development community, the engineers, our businesses, to be able to conduct business and move forward, I attribute that to the staff, and I appreciate that they're willing to work with them to make that happen. I want to thank the staff for their creativity. There's been a lot of work going on. I believe last Monday I sent out an email asking the staff for ideas for how do we reopen our community? What is that going to look like? Not saying that we're going to open it tomorrow, but just we need to start having that discussion as what does that look like for our business model? How do we be reasonable, not just for the city as an organization, but for as the community? The mayor and I began this discussion last week as well. So it's not like we're just started today. These things have been going on for several days. And but it's just amazing to see the creativity that the staff is putting together. Josh, would you cue the visual that Jared and his team put together that we're going to share? We're going to start in our messaging campaign. This is going to be the graphic that we use that Jared and his team at the Parks Department put together. We're going to be positive about what we are. We talk about we are a republic. Remember, everything passes, uplift, believe, lead, and invest in our community. I think that it is imperative as we move forward that we continue to be positive with the messaging that we're doing, to be bold, to be urgent, to follow our values. That's good, Josh. That's good. But everything that we do moving forward, we're going to start some messaging campaigns about what we're looking at doing, that we're considering all the options for how the city would open back up, what things that we're looking as a government to do. But I appreciate the creativity that staff have put together to help find ways that we would help restaurants, that we'd help businesses, that what that looks like. And these are people that are stepping outside their normal daily tasks that are helping provide insight, and I appreciate that work. And I want to thank the community for all their civility through this entire time. I'll tell you what, we take phone calls between myself, the mayor, city staff, and we answer those one by one. If someone has a question about their business, about the availability or the ability to function, we work with them. And so I appreciate the work of everyone to help our community and our business community continue to function in some fashion. But if you haven't got a chance, there's still a lot going on. I know people are, there's some that might discourage getting out and driving about. I would encourage people to get out and drive about. The OTC campus is taking shape. If you haven't been out by there lately, I'd encourage you to drive around it, take a look. It looks fantastic. It's going to be a great addition. It's going to open up in August. You go out to Backwoods Golf on Republic Road across from the high school. That business is looking great. And the animal shelter, that's a project that was funded by our capital improvement sales tax. It is taking great shape, and there's just a lot of great things that are going on. The development community continues to call, and we continue to do business and continue to work on ways to grow and develop the community. But it's an interesting season. But I appreciate how the staff, this council, our community has responded that it's a glass half full, not half empty. And we will lead and grow from it. We're going to be better because of this. And I can already see that we've grown and developed as an organization, as a community from it. We're only going to get stronger. And so I just, again, cannot thank you for the opportunity enough to lead this organization and be a part of it, because our best is yet to come. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. I want to say how proud I am of everyone that we've not reacted in a way that has increased confusion or fear at the City of Republic. We know there are state orders, we know there's county orders, but through all of that, we've kept our eye down the field and how we're going to get out of this and how we're going to start to open up and do it responsibly and phased and all those things that we know we need to do. And oftentimes, as you read on Facebook, this becomes a pretty binary subject that if you want to open the economy, you want people to die. And if you want people to stay home, then you're a tyrant. So you've got to try to find some space in the middle there where we say the point of the stay home order was never to eradicate the disease. We know that's not going to happen just by people staying home, unless everybody stayed home all the time and never went anywhere. I think if you look at Walmart or Price Cutter, you see that that's not been the case, or Lowe's or any of those other folks that have been open. The point of this was to increase the capacity at the hospitals. At least that's what we're told from the medical people, from the experts, from the infectious disease folks, that to create capacity and hopefully find some kind of therapeutic treatment that would make this not the mortality rate less than what it already is. So we know that there has to be an open at some point, and how that happens, we're working through that. We'll be excited to present some things to council. I do want to tell you that you should prepare yourself maybe for a special meeting between now and the next council meeting. Based on what the governor puts out, we would like to react quickly and swiftly at the City of Republic so we understand the things that we can do. But that's going to require your input, your feedback once we get to that point, and your vote, most of all, because we haven't declared an emergency in Republic. Not saying that COVID-19 isn't an emergency, but there's already a state of emergency from the governor and the federal government. And like I said, we didn't want to increase that panic or problems. So the council still holds the power in the City of Republic as it was designed to do and will continue to do. And that's all I have, other than just another reminder. Be prepared if you get a request for a special meeting. It's because we've gotten input from the governor's office and we know the direction they're heading and we know a little more about what we can do. So I want to open it up to the council. Mr. Franklin.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Just like to say again, very proud of Republic and our response. Republic is definitely in a great position, and it's in a great position because of all the efforts that have been made by the Republic staff and everyone here at the City of Republic. So I'm just very thankful for all of you, looking forward for growth and recovery in Republic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the council?
Do I count?
Well, of course you do, Ms. Poole. Go ahead.
I'm just kidding. I really appreciate the work that Laura has done during all this, because she's really been on her toes with everything, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that's on staff, but I think she's done an excellent job.
Absolutely. I think we'd all agree.
Agreed.
Thank you, Ms. Poole. Anything else from the council? Okay. Seeing nothing, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to all the citizens and any who were present. We will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.